fasting reinforced and revived. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. O you who believe, fasting is decreed for you as it was decreed for those before you, that you may attain salvation. So fasting was decreed before. It was originally, read the footnote. It says, like all religious practices in Islam, fasting was decreed through Abraham. The injunction prohibiting intercourse throughout the month of fasting is revised here to allow intercourse during the night of fasting. So when fasting was decreed first to Abraham, there was no intercourse throughout the whole month of Ramadan. That was part of the fasting. The fasting from food, drink, and sex throughout the whole month. As you will see here in the next, actually it's in verse 187, you'll see that this was modified to allow intercourse during the nights of Ramadan. 184, you shall fast during the specified days. Specified days means the 9th month of the lunar calendar. That's the month of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan existed before Muhammad was born. You shall fast during the specified days. Specified days are identified by the appearance of the moon, the new moon of the 9th month, and end by the appearance of the new moon of the 10th month. Those who are ill or traveling may fast an equal number of other days, and those who find it too difficult may substitute the feeding of a poor person for each day of fasting. You see, God gave us all kinds of outlets. Whatever the reasons, if you cannot fast, there's always an outlet. You can feed a poor person for every day. If you're ill or traveling, there's hardship, then you can postpone the fasting. All these are alleviations, allowances from God. Those who find it too difficult may substitute the feeding of a poor person for each day of fasting. If they volunteer to feed more people, it would be better. And then, notice the end of the verse. But fasting is the best for you if you only knew. So after all these allowances, whatever the excuses, the reasons, even though God gives you permission to break your fasting, fasting is best for you. So if you can, by any way, fast, then go ahead. It is best for you to fast. Nobody dies from abstention from water and food for one day, 24 hours. Of course, it is not 24 hours, it's only a maximum of 16 hours. Nobody will die of lack of food and water. So, it is best for us to carry out this commandment of fasting. 185. Ramadan is the month during which the Quran was revealed. Now this is a very important statement, because the legend and stories and so forth tell you that the Quran was revealed over a period of 23 years. Now obviously it is not true, because this verse says Ramadan is the month during which the Quran was revealed. The fact is, throughout the Quran, we're told that the Prophet Muhammad was taken on the night of power, the 27th night of Ramadan of that year. That first day, he was taken up to the highest horizon, the look of an ash. And the Quran was put in his heart, the whole Quran, on that one night. Just like you and I have in our heart the knowledge that God is the Lord of the universe. That we bore witness that God is our Lord. But we don't remember that because it's inside our heart. We don't perceive it. It's in our instinct. And in the same way, the Quran was put in Muhammad's heart. Surah 53 gives the details, how he was taken to the highest horizon, and the whole Quran was put in his heart. Subsequent to this, Gabriel will go and bring out a portion of Quran. A portion that is small enough for the Prophet and his companions to memorize. We'll find this in Surah 17. It says we released the Quran in small portions in order that you may memorize it. Now all these references are shown at the very beginning of the book. Go look at the beginning of the first few pages. There's one with big words, one page that says, on the 27th night of Ramadan. You see that page? On the 27th night of Ramadan of the year 13 before Hijrah, that is 610 AD, the Prophet Muhammad was summoned to the highest possible point, Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Masjid al-Aqsa is the highest possible point. And this Quran was placed into his heart. As we see in 297, 17, 1, 44, 3, 53, 1 to 18, and 97, 1 to 5. Subsequently, the Quran was released through Muhammad's mouth over a period of 23 years, namely between 610 and 632 AD. At the moment of release, it was scrupulously written down and divinely guarded since then. Now this is not what the majority of Muslims around the world believe or think. They have stories, they're taken from hadith and from other sources, storytellers. But the Prophet was sitting in a cave and Gabriel came to him and said, read. And he said, I don't know how to read, and so forth. So these are the storytellers. But the Quran says something else. The Quran says it was taken to Al-Masjid al-Aqsa, way up in the 7th heaven. So at the time, of course, there was no such thing as Masjid al-Aqsa on earth. But most people don't think about that. Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem was built after the fact, 70 years after the Prophet. And then the storytellers made up the story about him going from Mecca to Jerusalem and then up to heaven. He was taken from Mecca to heaven, straight. And this is the way it is in the Quran. Yeah. It's the same thing, it's not from the right. That was in the first day of revelation of Quran. That was the 27th night of Ramadan, when Muhammad was appointed a messenger. So when we look in the Quran and put all these texts together, we will reach the truth. I wanted to look at Surah 44, verse 3, for example. 44, 3. Straightforward, the subject is very clear, but it's amazing how the average Muslim will really get insulted when you tell them the truth of the Quran. Brother Muhammad bin Birra, you see it in Arabic. I think look at it in Arabic. 44, Surah Al-Baqarah, 3. No, 44. Verse 3, verse 3, it says what? إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ بِلَيْلَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ. We sent it down in a blessed night. يبقى القرآن نزل في ليلة واحدة ولا لا؟ إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ في ليلة مباركة. We have revealed the Quran in a blessed night. So the Quran was revealed in one night.
So the media was revealed in one night and
then released over 23 years.
Muhammad every time he was
Gabriel will come and will release a few verses. This is what the order of revelation comes. The first thing that was released was Surah 96, the first 5 verses, 19 words, as you know. The second release was 38 words of Surah 68. The third release was 57 words of Surah 74. The fourth release was up to the number 19 of Surah 75. The fifth release was the first complete Surah, Al-Fajr, which means the 19 letters, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, came immediately after the 19, the number 19. It's mentioned in the Quran. So the sequence is known.
Prophet Muhammad learned the Quran from only one time?
He received the Quran. He didn't know anything about it. He received the Quran in his heart. He was taken up in the 7th heaven.
But when he received the Quran in his heart,
he didn't know anything about it.
He wasn't able to recite the Quran?
No.
So the...
So he didn't know it.
Well, no, the angel Gabriel will come and will take him over and will bring out a number of verses.
Was he aware that he had it at that time, even if he couldn't bring it out and stuff?
He was definitely aware that something happened. You know, he was definitely aware that because God says to show him our marvels. So he was absolutely, he was completely aware. Surah 53 says he was.
Yeah, he's definitely.
He was definitely aware, and he was not imagining things. He was seeing realities. So he was aware that he was being appointed as the final prophet. That he was given a message.
But like some other verses tell us that he tells the prophet not to hurry the revelation. So what I'm saying, was he aware, you know, that it was there in him, even if it wasn't quite clear that he could speak it?
Yes, I'm sure. The indications are that he was aware. Because Gabriel was telling him everything.
So even when it was...
When Gabriel came not just to release the Quran, he came with a whole bunch of instructions along with the Quran. Like, for example, these verses belong in Surah 19 or Surah 16 in the specific position, or this is now a new Surah and it shall be entitled Jonah. So the instructions. Or as of now you pray towards Jerusalem. Or as of now you climb to Mecca. Or it is written in the Quran.
All those are details recorded in the history?
Well, they are reported in the Quran.
No, I mean, that's how he got the instructions.
Yes.
That Gabriel was telling him that spell this way.
Right, spell Becca with a B instead of M. The things that are unusual. They were divine orders. Because you can say Becca if you have a cold, you have flu or your nose is blocked. You say Becca, so the Prophet may have thought, maybe Gabriel had a cold or something. He said, the first shrine built for the people was in Becca. Hey Gabriel, are you sure it is Becca? We live here and it's Mecca. So he would make it very clear that this should be written with a B. And as I was showing Brother Muhammad today, that if it was written with an M, the whole system will collapse, the whole mathematical system collapses. Because it is really overwhelming that God picked out a word that is most familiar to the Arabs at that time. Familiar to Muhammad, he was born there, it is his town, it is known Mecca, the people going north and south, they live in it, they know it is Mecca, so what makes it Becca? Also shows the absolute obedience to the revelation. Gabriel said, this is to be written with a B, fine. I mean, if somebody said to you, I want you to write down, spell down Tucson with a V, Tucson. It's ridiculous, because we know it's Tucson. But then when the divine orders came to write it with the B, that's it. There's no way around it.
It only means there was no tampering in the
Right.
document.
Yeah, you couldn't tamper with it. And it stayed like this. I mean, the generation that came after that didn't think of correcting it. They know that it is Mecca, but they didn't dare. Of course, we must remember that God guaranteed the preservation of Quran. So even if they tried, they perished. I'm sure some people tried.
It's very interesting because this not only shows that the spelling, which was not the normal one, has been preserved. But later on, people begin to notice that there's a difference. Then they begin to say, oh, this is another name of.
Right.
But then there is no proof for that.
You know, they speculate.
They speculate that this is another name.
Right.
When the most possible explanation is that it was there from the beginning and nobody wanted to touch it.
Right.
They were afraid.
Besides God's preservation, it's interesting how when people make up an interpretation, they back it up with a whole bunch of stories. For example, Abu al-Mawdudi said that the letters before the surahs, for example, were put at the beginning of the surahs to gain the attention of the people. Just say, Qaf, wa Quran al-Majid. So people will say, what is this? And to get their attention. And he said that this was a common thing in the Arabic literature. Now this is to back up his interpretation. It's very simple. All you need to do is show us some literature where they have these letters. It's not true. And it used to get me all upset because when they say things like that. Why do you make a statement like that? He said, well, it's very common in the ancient Arabic literature. I studied ancient Arabic literature and we have it recorded everywhere, Qaysan, Layla, and all these things. And there isn't no such thing. These letters are not common at all. In fact, they were never used in any circumstances.
Well, if Mawdudi follows his own thinking, he should put AM before his books. You will say, what's AM? You say, Abu al-Mawdudi.
Get your attention.
Yeah, but he was no, that is guesswork.
Why he explained that only some of them needed attention and not all of them.
Exactly. This is another point. Why do we have the letters in front of only 29 chapters? When God doesn't want us to pay attention to the other chapters, what? But people, the interpreters will back up their interpretations with stories that have absolutely no basis.
So that means that what I don't understand is like whenever one of these revelations came out of right, there was always somebody that could write around it.
Right.
Yeah. Now how did they know how to differentiate the two when it was just something that he was saying or whether it was actually a revelation? How did they differentiate the two?
Because Muhammad couldn't miss the visit of Gabriel. If Gabriel visits you, you can't miss that.
No, I think his question I think is this. His question is this, that how did the people around him, when the Prophet was reciting, alright, when the Prophet was reciting, how would the people around him know that now he's reciting Quran, but at other times he's just talking from his own?
Right.
How did the people know? That is.
I understood the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And my answer was, you can't miss Gabriel's visit. So when Gabriel comes and says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدْ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدْ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And telling this is the Quran, then he will stay with Muhammad until Muhammad memorizes it. And then he will say to the revelation writers, I have some more Quran now. You say, what is it? You say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدْ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدْ. And they write it down and then they sit and study it and memorize it just like we're doing now.
Actually, that was, but that actually is, may I say something to this situation? This itself is really one of the wonderful things. If the Siratul Nabi, the history of the biography of Prophet, is to be believed, the people around him knew. They knew very well when he was under inspiration. And then they themselves would hear what he's saying and they would memorize it. The people around him.
They were anxiously waiting.
They knew. The people knew the difference. It is a very, very beautiful thing. They also know when he would just speak, ordinary things. Although I don't know how true it is that in this Rat Nabi he changes. Because in some ways it's a form of, he becomes an instrument. They know from his face and his uttering. It's not his language. It's just like, for example, all of us now, we know how the way you talk to us. But imagine if you're talking like Shakespeare. We all know that it's not you. No, this is a very wonderful phenomenon how the people, the team, would know that it's a revelation and they would themselves memorize it when he is uttering.
As far as the physical changes are concerned, I really don't buy that he used to faint and sweat
That's something
and
else.
all these things that some doctors diagnosed as epilepsy.
They made something wrong with you.
Yeah, I really don't buy that.
I don't go that far. I only say that there is some change they know, but
Right.
not as a pleasure
Well,
because
but it is something that exists in the books. They say that he will faint or he will be unconscious, all these things.
But
But,
according
when
to a
we-
doctor, a Jesuit doctor in the Philippines, an American doctor, he said, and he does not believe in the Quran. He's even an enemy of Islam. But this man told us very clearly, from the medical point of view, these recitations could not have come from an epileptic, he says.
Yes, well, this epilepsy story, I don't blame them because they make up these stories. But if you look at 17:106,
Chapter?
17, 106, this is page 196 at the top. It says, this is the Quran that we decreed to be released to the people by you over a long period, though we sent it down all at once. That's not the one that I want to show you.
This is very good.
It's a good one, but there is one. القرآن فرقناه لكم مثل مسلم ونزل منه تنزيل. This is it. But there is one that says to fix it in your memory. I'm going to find it for you. It is important. It says that we released it over a long period in order to fix it in your memory. So this would indicate to me that Gabriel will release a few verses and then will sit with Muhammad until he memorizes it. Now, I want to remind you also of the angels that went to Abraham, visited him in the form of human beings. Then Abraham went and slaughtered the calf for them. He roasted the calf and brought it to them. Now angels don't eat like we do. They don't have the same digestive system that we have or the needs that we have. Neither will you in the eternal real life. You will not need, or maybe you will. Let me not go into this. But anyway, the angels wouldn't eat the roasted calf that Abraham brought. So this tells us that the angels come to the people in the form of human beings. They come to Abraham, and there is no reason why Gabriel wouldn't come to Muhammad in the form of a human being and help him release the Quran and make him memorize it. Oh, here's the. This is a very important verse. We're talking about revelation of the Quran. Surah 25, verse 32. Gosh, you guys are the most informed people in the world. That's what Quran says. Page 247. Verse 32 says, the disbeliever said, how come the Quran was not revealed through him all at once? We thus released it gradually in order to fix it in your memory. That's the reason why it was released over a period of 23 years. To fix it in the Prophet's memory, and the companions, of course, who were around him, they were also memorizing it along with him. They didn't know how to read or write, but God gave him a sharp memory and gave him a lot of time. Nothing else to do. Because really it takes a lot of time to memorize it and to keep it alive in your memory. So this, to fix it in your memory, indicates that Gabriel will release it in few verses and then will make sure that Muhammad knows it, memorizes it. So whether the revelation writers were there or not, when the Prophet met them, then he will send somebody to bring them, and he will tell them, I have some new Quran for you. And they will write it down.
Would it not be reasonable to say that it makes sense why the Quran has to be, among other reasons, and referring only to some verses, it makes sense why the Quran has to be revealed on different occasions, because some of them are really guides for specific occasions.
Yes, exactly.
For example,
the Battle of Badr.
after the Battle of Badr,
Right.
after the Battle of Uhud,
Yeah.
how can a revelation talk about the results of the Battle of Uhud
Before it takes place.
if this not yet
Exactly.
taken place? So that's why, if I'm allowed to use a kind of philosophical language, that the Quran, as you said, is given as a whole, put in the heart of the Prophet, and released at different times. The releasing, it's there, actually in the heart, but potentially for certain occasions.
Yeah. Definitely.
And when the occasion comes, it becomes actualized relative to the
Exactly.
occasion.
Like the occasion of Zaid and divorcing
Yeah.
his wife. And now, the Quran was written before the earth was created, and it was put in Muhammad's heart before these things took place. It's one of the miraculous features of the Quran. So when Zaid divorced his wife and the Prophet was to marry Zaid's wife,
It comes out.
then these verses were released.
It comes out, yeah.
That was the time for it. So this is a very good point that Din Mahfoud just raised. Okay, back to yeah.
That particular verse, Prophet Muhammad knew this to marry
Yes.
kept not to do it.
Right, because it was against the traditions. He was afraid of the people, worried about the people saying, what do they think of me?
How did he know? Was it because he was aware, at least somewhat, of what was of that part of the Quran inside?
When we go to that verse,
It's very interesting. But it's very interesting because, the way this wood here, because actually it was there, but he was keeping it. He didn't want it, you remember?
yeah, you mean the order to marry?
Yes, he was, it was there. It's supposed to come out in a revelation, but I think he's scolded by the Quran. Did you not point it out?
Oh yeah, this is in Surah 24.
He
It
is scolded.
This blame. But there are many different kinds of inspiration and revelation. There is a kind where you are put in a situation where you either submit to God or you object. Okay, so he was put in that kind of situation where he was afraid of what will the people think of him. But when a certain inspiration comes to you from God, it just takes over and you just can't think of anything else. Like Moses' mother, for example, throwing her baby in the river. Whoever heard of Linda throwing Aisha in the river? Or any mother. I mean, no mother in the world would do that. Certainly not Linda Baron. But it was some kind of an impulse. So we all know what a loving mother you are, Linda. So I use you as an example for that. We're going to see what kind of mother Dana is. I know she'll probably beat you in that. Very soon, inshallah. But this is the kind of inspiration that just takes over, and there's nothing else you can do with that.
So his knowledge that he should marry is what with an inspiration rather than
Or direct, Gabriel told him. Gabriel told him that God wants him to marry Zaid's wife to establish a law, a precedent. That was the idea. I mean, it could be in any form. So, and the Quran notes it. Okay, back to 185. Ramadan is the month during which the Quran was revealed. And I think we really studied this point thoroughly now. Bringing guidance, clear guidelines, and the statute book. Statute book means the book of laws, regulations, the final law. Initially, the commandment, you shall not kill, for example. That's it. Just period. But the Quran gives details about the qisas, the equivalence, the law of equivalence, and pardoning, man for the man, the woman for the woman. God wishes convenience for you rather than hardship. He wishes to enable you to fulfill your duty and to glorify God for guiding you and to show your appreciation. I mean, when you say, I believe in God, you have to do something about it. You can't just say, I believe in God, and then you don't pray the 5 prayers. Or you don't fast the month of Ramadan. Yeah.
I'm just curious about when they were traveling. What would traveling be consistent of?
Hardship. The idea is hardship. If I take the plane, from here to New York, I wouldn't break my fast because it's really nice and comfortable, lazy. But when they traveled by camel, it was really hard. It was really hard. The sandstorms and.
What about those days when Ramadan was in color this year? It was really hot. Did you travel somewhere, down south or whatever?
That's why the Quran says if you can't do it, you can feed one poor person. And then it ends by saying it's best to fast. Even in the hot, long days, nobody will die from abstention from food and drink for 16 hours. It's hard, it's not easy. This will show your appreciation of God, that you really believe in God. And when he says you fast in the month of Ramadan, you fast no matter what. And as you know, pregnancy, yes, if it's hard, you can do it some other time. You fast some other time. But if you can do it, it's better for you and for the baby. You can be sure. When God says it's best for you.
Look at Adam. Perfect example. Oh, yeah.
Did you fast? Oh, I see.
But you were following Quran. You were feeding someone.
That's why he's so good. He's so good.
This fast is going to be bigger than daddy in a few months. MashaAllah. I want to say that, how God designed the whole life with a test. Because we were saying that Ramadan comes in the short days in the winter, where the days only 8 hours, and fasting is really nothing. It's just the period between your breakfast and lunch, really. Most people. So there's nothing to it. And you have to take 100 people who would fast when the day is short. And then Ramadan moves, and the days become longer. And 15 people will drop out when the day is 10 hours. Then we'll have 85 people fasting. And then the day becomes 14 hours, the fasting day. and 20 more people drop out, so we have 65 people left. And then the day goes on to 15 hours, and 20 more people drop out because it's too long. Then you have 45 people left, and then the day is 16 hours hot, long and hot, 16 hours, and you have 20 more people drop out. You have 25% left. These are the 25 die-hard believers who will fast no matter what. And you can see how the test is designed. The whole universe is designed for that test. And the same with the prayer. Now we are praying Fajr before sunrise, whether you like it or not. Because the sunrise is 7:30. You have to be at work at 8 o'clock or whatever. So you're praying now. Are you praying Fajr before sunrise because God says you pray before sunrise, or because you have to go to work at 8 o'clock? Now the true you, this question will be answered when sunrise is at 4 o'clock. Going to pray Fajr before sunrise, or going to pray at 7 o'clock as usual? that will show you whether you are praying Fajr because God said so, or because your boss said come to work at 8 o'clock. The whole universe is designed for the test. The axis of the earth is tilted 23 degrees, just so the days would be longer, the sunrise would be different. Just to test you. You see the point? When God says you pray morning before sunrise, this means as a die-hard believer, as one who really believes in God, who knows that God is the boss, who runs your life and provides for you, and promises to make you a king or queen on earth, you believe the Quran, you know all these things, then you will get up to pray Fajr, even if the sun rises at 4 or 3 or whatever, doesn't matter. And this is what this verse means by showing the appreciation of God. Appreciation of God means you appreciate that He is the Master, He is the King, that whatever He says must go. He doesn't want to bother you and disturb you and get you up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't need our prayer. But He said this is what's good for you. This is what we need. This is what prepares you to join my kingdom. This is what God said. Because the day will come when you are resurrected to enter the eternal life, the real life. And you can close your eyes a few minutes and then open them, imagining that you're opening them on the day of resurrection. Now, what will your position be? Are you qualified to join the kingdom of God? Or were you lazy? You couldn't get up before sunrise for God. But when your boss says you're going to have an emergency and you have to come at 3 o'clock every morning for the next 2 weeks, will you go at 3 o'clock every morning for 2 weeks? Will you want you get fired? But that's what distinguishes the believer from the lazy person. Now don't be discouraged. If you're at the stage where you're praying one prayer a day, well, hopefully you will always progress. That's what counts. This is the motto of General Electric. Progress is our most important product. Progress is our most important. The important thing is that you do not regress into not praying. You must progress into doing 2 prayers a day, and from that you progress to doing 3 prayers a day, and so forth. You make a point of never regression. Maybe you will never pray morning before sunrise at this time. Don't be discouraged, because your body is a wild horse that you're trying to tame. It's a real wild horse. Your body is real wild. It doesn't want to get up in the morning. It's very difficult to get up in the morning. And this is the whole idea, because if you're strong, you will make your body get up. Now, if your body is stronger than your soul, that is you, you're in deep trouble. But try to exercise your soul until you're stronger than your body, because your body is going to die, and you're going to stay on. You're going to stay on as a strong person or as a weak baby. So it's very important to don't be discouraged and to make progress. The most important progress. Progress from 1 prayer a day to 2 prayers a day until you do the 5 prayers a day, and then you progress to praying fajr every day. So God says so. So God here says He wishes that you fulfill your duties. He wants you to fulfill your duties, but the test requires that God does not interfere. So Satan and the angels will not cry foul. The idea is that God does not interfere, but God wants you to be saved. God wants you to join His kingdom. He wants you to be a king or queen on earth. He wants you to have absolutely no master except Him. So that's what this verse is saying. He wishes to enable you to fulfill your duty. He wants you to pass the test. But people insist on climbing the fence into hell. You know, God puts fences in front of them to prevent them from going to hell, but they insist. God wishes to enable you to fulfill your duty and to glorify God for guiding you and to show your appreciation by fasting the month of Ramadan, by praying the 5 prayers in their time, by giving to charity, being charitable, kind. This country is under a terrible test right now with all the tragedies and the poor people. And you should hear all the mean, average Americans. Take them all and throw them in hell, you know. They were thinking in Phoenix of building a park for the transients, to give them some refuge. And you should hear all the people speaking against it. We're dirty up the city. You know? It's like it's their choice to be poor or hungry or whatever. But this is a test. It's a test for this country. And a Muslim must be charitable, must be kind, must be thankful that he's not put in that position. They are human beings. They're having their own tests in their own way. So these are the duties that God wants us to fulfill. The Salat prayer, the Zakat charity, the fasting of Ramadan, Hajj pilgrimage when we can. Now look at 186. And when my servants ask you about me, I am always near. I respond to the call of any caller who calls on me. Therefore you shall respond to me and believe in me, that they may obtain guidance. So these are the requirements that your prayer be answered. Are your prayers answered? They should be always. If you fulfill the requirements, respond to me, respond to God, and believe in me, believe in God. People who believe in God and respond to Him, respond meaning they follow His commandment. Then He hears your calls, whatever you call. God says He's closer to you than the jugular vein. What does this mean? Closer to you than this. I mean, how could it be closer? Because God controls the count of blood cells in your vein. He controls the flow of the blood in your vein.
What verse is that?
It is closer to you than your regular vein. I think it's Sura 86, but let me look it up. No, I'm not looking at it, but it's something where there. $50, 16.
50, 16.
Surah 50, verse 16. Since we created the human being, we are fully aware of his innermost thoughts. We are closer to him than his jugular vein. You still cold for people? I'm going to turn the heater down. Oh, is it off? Okay. Good. So when my servants ask you about me, I am always near. Now, you may pray for something, and because you're a good believer, your prayer is answered, but not exactly at the time you want it, because God is not sometimes we say, don't say, I don't know how to put this, but as a king or queen on earth, the angels are all around you and they're eager to fulfill whatever you want. So sometimes you may make statements and they rush into fulfilling those statements on their oral because they don't know your thoughts. And you may get in trouble this way. But God is, when you pray to God, He knows what is best for you, what is the best time. So you may pray for something that is not good for you at this particular time, and your prayer will come to pass at the best time for you, at the right time. And if you recall, I gave you an example of where I thought that the prayer takes 3 to 6 months to get fulfilled. Remember that story? I was thinking of the 7 universes and how far it is, and I say, well, I noticed, that was my conclusion, that when I pray for something, it is fulfilled, but it takes 3 or 6 months. So I came to a final conclusion that it takes 3 to 6 months for God to answer the prayer. And the day I came to that conclusion, I hit that. I was driving down the street in Tripoli, Libya, and I hit that kid in the head, mind you, in the head. And I was going so fast, it took me a half a block to stop. That kid was laying down on the side of the street and was supposed to be dead.